quiet periods and all that. But somewhere through here, you'll hear that. As you can see on this, and I guess you can see it behind me there. We have the word ungulates. We'll talk about what that means later in the process. But what we have here is a good sized humpback whale. And next we'll go to the next slide. And we're going to talk during the early Paleozoic period, life lived in the seas. The Earth was too hot and did not have an oxygen atmosphere. In the Devonian period, which is here, 480 to 360 million years ago, the first land animals, including amphibians, tetrapods, emerged from the swamps onto land. And during the Carboniferous period, reptiles first appeared from 360 to 245 million years ago. After the Permian mass extinction event, which has occurred here, reptilian dinosaurs became the dominant land animal. Their dominance continued during the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods from 245 to 65.5 million years ago. All non-avian dinosaurs perished in the Cretaceous. The Paleocene, or the Cretaceous Paleocene extinction event. As did 75% of other animal species. No tetrapod weighing more than 25 kilograms or 55 pounds survived. About 200 million years ago, so we go down here. The middle of the Mesozoic era, mammals evolved. Small mammals survived the Cretaceous Tertiary mass extinction. Am I hearing the song? Okay. Tell me when you get tired of it and we'll figure a way to cut it out. But those are the sounds that whales, in this case, a humpback whale makes. In 2007, a new head of starting of the line of cetaceans was found in India and in Pakistan. You want to do this? Okay. All right. Boy, that was simple. The Indoheus was an aerodactyl that walked on its even numbered toes, which is what is an ungulate. Aerodactyls help include footed mammals like hippopotamus, deer, giraffe, camel, sheep, goats, and pigs. The ear bone of that animal, the bulla, was shaped like that of a whale. The mammal was an herbivore, but carbon-13 tests showed that it did not eat seaweeds. It had 4 short legs and a buoyancy so that it could stay underwater to avoid attacks by birds of prey. Its oxygen 18 levels indicated it had a predominant aquatic life. Its eyes were higher on the skull like whales, and other paleontologists believe that carnivorous animals were more closely related to cetaceans. But the next slide shows the evolution without this Indoheus as the first step back to the sea. So we're going to go to the next slide. Well, there we go. And what has been known as the beginning of the evolution of whales, the Pachycitis, and that's what this is showing. 10 million years after the Cretaceous Paleogene mass extinction event, mammals returned to the sea, mammals returning to the sea had altered their limbs into flippers, becoming whales. Pachycitis was found in 2001. It lived 48 million years ago in Pakistan and India. It was only 1.75 meters, under 5 feet 9 inches in size. It is generally agreed to be the oldest fossil relative to whales and partially lived in the water. The Pachycitis had ears and a lower jaw adapted to living below the surface. It was 3 meters, which is 9 feet 10 inches in size. It lived 47 million years ago. The next one in line was Duradon. It was an early whale, fully adapted to living in the sea, and it spread globally. It lived from 40 to 33.9 million years ago. It was a genus of the family Basilosaurus, which you probably heard of. It was not able to echolocate, however. It grew to 5 meters or 16 feet in length. This is a necropsy of the bones in a modern toothed whale flipper. And you can see the 5-fingered limb as in humans and amphibians and other animals. The term ghost hand is used to describe this hidden feature. Currently, there are 67 species of toothed whales and 11 species of baleen whales. Baleen whale flippers have 4 fingers. The first digit was lost as late as 14 million years ago. Modern cetaceans lack hind limbs, but their embryos still have the beginnings of hind limbs. Disruption of the normal sequence of expression of genes that makes these organs is responsible. This is a slide showing the evolution of the breathing nostrils or blowholes on the skulls of cetaceans. Baleen whales have a pair of blowholes or breathing nostrils, whereas toothed whales have only one. Because whales descended from terrestrial mammals, they have lungs to breathe atmospheric air, unlike fish that use their gills to take oxygen from seawater. Cetaceans need to come to the water surface to breathe. Humpback whales needs to breathe every 45 minutes. Sperm whales can hold their breath for 90 minutes for deep dives. The whale's blowhole is closed when underwater. Humans breathe in first and then exhale. This leaves stale air in our lungs and only exchanges 10 or 15%. Whales actually exhale first, then breathe in to exchange 80 to 90% of the air in their lungs. Whale lungs are 3% of their body size compared to 7% for humans' lungs. The whale lungs collapse when underwater. The lungs have more cartilage, which gives them more elasticity to inflate quickly. The whale can consciously slow its heart rate by 50% and provide blood only to essential organs when underwater. Whales have twice the hemoglobin in their blood than humans, which provides more oxygen, while mussels have 30% more myoglobin protein that stores oxygen. And as you can see from this, the nostrils start at the very front of the skull, if you would, and it continues to move up and up, finally up to the very top. So as soon as the animal breaches the water, they can exhale and they can breathe in air by that. There are a number of identifiers to figure out that whales are in fact mammals that came from land. One of these is the astragalus ankle bone. It connects to the fingers and the hands and it makes for better mobility. And on display there, I don't have any from any of the whales, but I do have some from deer and different animals that you can look at there. The double-hinged astragalus is unique to even-toed ungulates. The astragalus is at the end of the limb. It's joined by 4 or 5 toes and ends in a hoof. The bone connects whales to terrestrial mammals from which they evolved. Baleen whale anatomy. Matt, if you would, bring me that one big piece of bone there, if you would. Modern blue whales are the heaviest known living or fossil animal. It can get as long as 30 meters or 100 feet. That's the one. That's the one. Thank you. And it can weigh 220 short US tons, the equivalent of 33 elephants. Whales are at the top of the food chain and are important to overall health of the marine environment. They play a significant role over the average lifespans of 70 years in capturing up to an average of 33 tons of CO2 from the atmosphere in their bodies. When they die, their body sinks to the seafloor and locks the CO2 away, sometimes for centuries. Whale jumbo-sized poo contains nutrients such as phosphorus, iron, and nitrogen, which fertilize the phytoplankton. Phytoplankton absorbs 44% of the world's CO2. It produces 50 to 80% of the oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere. As mammals, whales breathe air, have hair, are warm-blooded, give birth to live young, and feed their young milk. Whales are beautiful, graceful, and mysterious. They nurture, form friendships, grieve, play, sing, and cooperate. Pregnancies last for a year, and they nurse for 6 months with a pair of nipples, which are located at the rear of the abdomen near the genitals. So here you can see the mammary glands are here, and the urogenital slit is located here, and the anus is here on the whale itself. Their milk contains 50% fat. Whales have a fixed mating call. They also learn complex songs from other whales. Humpback males can sing for 30 minutes at a time. New songs are produced each year. Whales have an almost 7-octave range, similar to that of a piano. The term rostrum refers to the whale's mouth. And you can, so here's the rostrum, and here is where the baleen, it comes from the top jaw. We're going to go to a picture of an actual whale, and this is a bowhead whale. Here in the top jaw, you can see the baleen hanging down. Can we show this now? This is a piece of whale upper jawbone. And if you can see, there's a slot here. I'll get the picture of this. This is a piece of the upper whale jawbone of a baleen whale. And this is this from this slot is where the thank you, where the baleen came out of. And so we have this piece from, and this is from Lee Creek, which of course we've not been able to get into for quite a while. So I wanted to show that to you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thanks. So how does filter feeding work? The whale opens its mouth underwater, taking in a large quantity of water containing krill, copepods, and small fish. I think I failed to show you in the last slide. Down here, there are pleats in this lower part of the jaw, and it can open. These pleats will open up and enable it to take in larger quantities of water. It then partially shuts its mouth and presses the tongue, which is down here, into the upper jaw, against the upper jaw. This forces the water to pass out sideways through the baleen, which sieves out prey, and which then the whale then swallows. Paleontologists believe that in the early Oligocene, 30 million years ago, some whales began the transition from teeth and suction to the use of baleen. This was not a complete changeover, but a hybrid use of teeth and baleen. Modern Piscitellis or baleen whales have teeth initially, then develop baleen plates in utero. They lose dentition as juveniles and into adulthood. No enamel forms for their teeth. Dentition or having teeth is the ancestral state of Piscitellis. Baleen is made of keratin, but how and why it originated is not known. It grows out of the whale's gums. After death, it detaches from the mouth. About 23 million years ago, baleen became the dominant feeding mechanism. Baleen has been called whalebone. It is flexible with a lot of strength. It has been used to make baskets, back scratchers, and a whole bunch of other things. Whale blubber, it was used as oil for lamps and made into soaps. Their neck vertebrae were fused, and whales cannot turn their heads. The earliest whales were called the archocetes, ancient whales. Modern whales descended from them. They had different dentition, which was called heterodonty. This consisted of having incisors, canines, premolars, and molar teeth. Modern tooth whales have no molars for chewing. They swallow their prey whole or in large chunks. Some use their tongues to suck in food. Squalodons, whales, emerged about 300 million years ago. Note the tusks, teeth in the upper. There's a tusk coming out here and a tusk coming out here. In the upper and lower jaws. They appear to be able to echolocate. At 20 million years, modern echolocation was established. On the display table, you see a cast of a molar from this particular whale. The archaeocete whales were terrestrial to semi-aquatic animals that fed on marine prey. Later ones were feeding and spending most of their time in the sea while returning to land to breed and or give birth. The late archaeocetes were the first fully aquatic whales. This species was fully aquatic. These multi-cusp molars would shear prey such as fish and squid. I had the pleasure of seeing one of these molars dug up in Santee, South Carolina quarry. All archaeocete whales went extinct 37 million years ago. And you can see the size of that. It's a very big tooth that it had. The squalodon, this is from Calvert Cliffs, whale lived from the late Oligocene into the middle Miocene, 28 to 15 million years ago. It had 7 species and has been found all over the globe. It left no descendants, however. It had complex, archaic dentition with primitive teeth. All other whales and dolphins have simple conical teeth. The Squalodon's cheek molars were triangular and serrated like those of a shark. They had very long and narrow snouts that sported 2-inch tuft teeth. Excuse me, not 2-inch, but 2 tuft teeth that stuck out in front of their jaws. Other long incisors were at the front of their mouths. They grew up to 3 meters or 10 feet long. With their cutting and grasping teeth, they could feed on small bony fish, squid, and crustaceans. They were early whales to develop echolocation. This was the last whale to have complex dentition, meaning teeth were different depending on the location of the jaw. Today's living tooth whales have little variation in their teeth. The Squalodon whales went extinct in the middle of the Miocene and have no descendants. Miocene and Oligocene era fossils from Maryland, North and South Carolina are displayed at the Mace Brown Museum in Charleston, South Carolina. These are fossil sperm whale teeth. Most sperm whale fossils are found in the Miocene epoch from 23 to 5 million years ago. Fossil sperm whales differ from modern ones in their tooth count and the shape of their face and jaws. Fossil sperm whales had teeth in both jaws and may not have been deep sea divers and squid eaters like modern ones. Modern sperm whale teeth can be quite large. The average height is 20 centimeters or almost 8 inches and can weigh over 2 pounds. The tooth is a cone shaped and has a small amount of enamel at the end. I think you might be, this is here, you can see only this part is the enamel on the tooth. The rest of the tooth is covered by cementum, which is a bone-like tissue that forms on the outer surface of the tooth. A modern sperm whale has 18 to 26 teeth on each side of its lower jaw. These teeth fit into sockets in the upper jaw, which has no teeth. The sperm whale is the largest toothed predator in the world. Here's a picture of a modern sperm whale with the calf. Sperm whales were named from a milky white waxy substance found in their head. Their head is 1/3, you can see, the head is very large, of their body length, and they have the largest brains of any animal. Modern whales have 40 conical teeth in their lower jaw, which fit into sockets in the upper jaw, which has no teeth, unlike their fossil ancestors. Modern sperm whales grow to 20.5 meters or 67 feet long. They can dive to 300 meters or 9,800 feet, holding their breath for 90 minutes. They are the deepest diving animal. They feed on giant or colossal squid. At these depths, sperm whales live in social groups where females and their young live separately from sexually mature males. Females mate in periods from 3 to 6 years and care for their calves for more than a decade. They live up to 70 years with few predators. Their body structure provides for their survival under extreme pressure by having a flexible rib cage, which allows for lung collapse and reduced absorption of nitrogen to prevent decompression sickness. The sperm whale's clicking vocalization is a form of sonar. At 240 decibels, it is the loudest sound produced by any animal. It is louder than the sound of a space rocket's takeoff from 50 meters away. It could blow out a human's eardrums and could vibrate a person to death. The brain of a sperm whale is 6 times the size of a human brain, and it can process sound at 250 times of a human. Hearing in whales is more complicated than human hearing with the use of additional body parts. Whales have no external ears. Ear canals are filled with debris and dense wax. Their ear canals do not attach to the tympanic membrane eardrum. Whales hear poorly or not at all in air. But marine mammals like whales and dolphins hear very well in water. How does sound get to the middle ear? Sound waves are picked up in the lower jaw, which is called a dentary, which has fluid-filled fat lobes. The squamosal bone, which is these bones here, these are squamosal bones, there's some on the table, connects to sounds from the lower jaw, connects sounds from the lower jaw to the middle ear. Unlike land mammals, whose ears are attached to the skull, the middle and inner ears of cetaceans are in bones located in a cavity outside the skull. Toothed whale middle ear is attached to the skull with ligaments, whereas baleen whales have bony connections to the skull. Further research into hearing is still being researched. The middle ear filters and amplifies the acoustic energy into the inner ear. The inner ear transforms the acoustic energy to electric signals, neural impulses that are processed by the brain. This is a tympanic bulla, which was collected by one of our club members, Corey Deltro, in Virginia. They're going to have a bunch of, these are whale ear bones, also tympanic bullas. Sound is the dominant sense for whales. Their ears are more important than their eyes. All toothed whales have a sonar-like ability to find prey by echolocation rather than terrestrial vision. Hearing underwater is improved. Water transmits sound waves quicker and at further distances. Whales, like bats, emit special sounds, which travel out from a structure in their heads called a melon. The sound reflects off objects and echoes back to the whale's fatty tissue in the whale's jaw, and then is using a squamosal bone. The vibrations are rerouted into the ear bone, then to the brain, which can determine the range, the bearing, and the shape of the object. Toothed whales communicate by whistles, clicks, and calls. They can coordinate very complex group activities with their large, well-developed brain. The term involcrum, which is exhibited by this red line on all the different whale bulla, refers to additional bone growth outside of the existing bone. Both fossil and recent whales have this ear shape, which is like 1/2 of a walnut shell. It has an air-filled cavity that picks up sound transmission inside the middle ear, attached to the inner ear surface by the eardrum are 3 small bones. The malleus, which is referred to as the hammer, the incus, which is referred to as anvil, and the stapes or stirrup, which is actually the stirrup is the smallest and the lightest bone in the human body. These bones then send sounds to the cochlea, then to the auditory nerve, and finally to the brain. This ear bone arrangement is unique to mammals. This is a whale periodic, and the arrow points to his stapes, which is preserved. Again, this was collected by our Fossil Club member, Corey. And you can see how small that bone is there. As I was trying to understand this business of hearing, kind of complicated, I finally found this particular display. And so what you have here is this is the periodic, this is the tympanic bulla, and these represent the three different bones which are part of the transmitting the hearing into the nerve that carries it to the brain. So the green is the malleus, yellow is the incus. We can't quite see it there, I think. And the purple is the stapes, which is down here. And the gray, which is further down here, is the cochlea. So that's how all that fits together in terms of that, for them to hear. You can see the whale vertebrae starting with the cervical and then going down through the thoracic and finally to the tailbones. They all are slightly different. Scientific theories on how whales attain their great size are opposed. Originally, they were thought because of the buoyancy of the ocean water and a larger source of food in the sea than on land caused them to be large. They theorized that in the cold water, heat is lost. Whale blubber, this is the new theory they're using, whale blubber increased the whale's size to keep them warm. The increased size volume versus the surface area produced more heat in the body versus loss from the skin's surface. However, there was a limit to size based on the quantity of food that the whale could catch and eat. This increased the minimum size 1,000 times larger than a terrestrial animal, but the maximum size was still limited to an average of 1,100 pounds. Whales developed a spindle-shaped streamlining body, which reduced drag when swimming and diving. A layer of blubber and circulatory mechanism kept them warm in the colder depths of the water. Their terrestrial legs and tails were formed into paddle-shaped fins and flukes. As we have seen, the nostrils moved from the front of the face to the top of the head to enable forward motion. The toothed whale's breathing and functions and internal anatomy let them dive to great depths for long periods. In the last 3 million years, glaciers and wind currents resulted in coastal waters having surges of nutrients that fed large group of crustaceans and small fish. These were concentrated in far-flung places separated by food deserts. Great baleen whales evolved to feed on these concentrated but sparse prey. With their huge size, they could survive long stretches with no food. Using lunge feeding, where they would swim fast into a huge school of prey. By ballooning their mouths, they could take in enormous amounts of water. This enabled them to exceed the size of a diet-imposed ceiling. The baleen whales were able to consume enormous numbers of small prey. They would migrate thousands of miles, timing with the bloom of invertebrates and small schooling fish. During these long treks, they were sustained by stored nourishment in their large size and did not need to feed. Pictured are two vertebrae of approximately the same size. Which vertebrae is from an older aged whale? The one on the left or the one on the right? Those of you that chose the vertebrae on the right as belonging to an older whale are correct. How do we know? The smooth surface here, the smooth surface, indicates that the cookie or epiphysis has permanently attached itself to the vertebrae. This occurs as the animal ages. At a younger age, it sits loosely between each vertebrae. When the animal dies, the epiphysis falls away. This is an epiphysis. Here we have the top and here we have the bottom side. It's made of a spongy cancellous bone, which is covered by a thin layer of compact bone. It is connected to the bony vertebrae by cartilage or growth plate, which adds in this bone growth. It functions to connect adjacent vertebrae. Eventually, as the whale ages, the cartilage is replaced by bone and is fused to the vertebrae. The cartilage acts as a shock absorber that prevents the pain of two bones rubbing against one another, similar to the disc in the human vertebrae column. Cancellous bone is porous under a microscope and produces red blood and stem cells. It differs from cortical bone, which is found in long bones. Here's a picture of a modern whale vertebrae and ribs. This is a complete skeleton of a modern whale, showing the vertebrae from the cervical head to its tail. Note the cervical vertebrae are fused or compacted together. The rib bones that attach to the vertebrae in the front section of the skeleton. Current dolphins live in all the world's oceans and even in some of our largest rivers. There are 4 families with 49 living species. 30 are oceanic dolphins. The remaining 10 are river dwelling. Dolphins are mammals that eat meat with teeth. The blowhole at the top of the head is used for breathing and to make sounds. It has muscles that close the opening when underwater. Dolphins choose when to breathe, unlike humans that breathe without thinking. Dolphin genitals are hidden in slits. Males have 2 slits, one for the penis and the other for the anus. Females have only 1 slit that conceals the vagina and the anus, but they also have 2 mammary slits. I can't see enough to see where that is, but they're in the back here, I know that. Dolphins are mammals, are breastfed for the first 12 to 18 months. Embryo dolphins show hind leg buds at 24 days old. In the dolphin anatomy diagram, note the melon, which is right here, this yellow piece here. It's in the head region. Dolphins and toothed whales emit clicks from this organ. Dolphins have spines that move vertically, which is also found in land mammals. Fish spines move horizontally. Dolphins can sleep while swimming. Dolphins shut down one half of their brain. They keep one eye open at all times, alert for danger. While sleeping, they can still surface regularly to breathe. And they can rest in a group either semi-consciously in either a vertical or a horizontal body position. They also float at the surface like a floating log. The dolphin's mouth is called the rostrum. That's this piece here. While a shark swims by moving its tail from side to side, the dolphin moves its tail flukes up and down. They have a pair of floating bones under their backbone that would have been a pelvis in a terrestrial animal. This is all that remains of its former hind legs. The flippers or pectoral fins on each side of the body contain the hand bones with 4 fingers. A dolphin's brain is slightly greater than that of a human. It is 15 to 60 times bigger than a shark of similar size. They have eyes on each side of their head that are very sensitive despite not being able to identify colors. The eyes can move independently, but are unable to look directly up or down. Current dolphins live in all the world's oceans and even in some of our largest rivers. There are 4 main families with 49 living species. The blowhole at the top of the head is used for breathing and to make sounds. It has muscles that close the openings when underwater. Dolphins choose when to breathe, unlike humans that breathe without thinking. Dolphin genitals, as we saw, are hidden in slits. Males have 2 slits for the penis and the other for the anus. Females have only 1 slit that conceals the vagina and the anus, but they also have 2 mammary slits on either side of the genital slits. Dolphins as mammals are breastfed for the first 12 to 18 months. Embryo dolphins show the hind legs at 24 days old. In the dolphin anatomy diagram, note the melon in the head region. Dolphins are toothed whales, emit clicks from this organ. Dolphins have spines that move vertically, which is also found in mammals. I think a lot of this I've already told you before, so I'm going to skip a little further down. This is the cervical vertebrae. We have the atlas with C1 and the axis. And then we have this structure here. And I have 2 of those over there that you can see. And this is called the Odonted Process. And it goes from the axis vertebrae through the atlas vertebrae into the actual head. And if the head was to rotate, it would enable it to do that and stay fixed. And it's a very interesting piece that I've never really seen before. So it took us a while to find that. So you should take a look at that over there. There we go. The Myosin dolphin, which you see here pictured, has a longer upper beak. It's theorized that this would be used to stir up the sea bottom to flush out prey. Also note the scapula in the middle of the skeleton. This was the most common toothed whale from 23 to 5 million years ago. It was 6 to 9 feet long. It had small conical and peg-like teeth. It was a primitive dolphin with slightly complex teeth. At the end of the Miocene, it became extinct. True porpoises have no fossil record in the Atlantic during the Miocene epoch, but were found in the Pacific. They entered the Atlantic during the Pleistocene era. Porpoises have spatulate teeth, which are spoon-shaped with a flat blunt end that look like small ornithopod dinosaur teeth. Unfortunately, porpoise is a term that is used as a collective word for small-toothed cetaceans. The Middle Miocene Lee Creek Pungo River Formation contained fossils of teeth which were ancient dolphins or basal delphin. I can't pronounce it, but anyhow, dolphins. The late Miocene to Middle Pliocene Lee Creek Yorktown Formation contained true dolphins. Dolphins evolved to their current form from about 10 to 15 million years ago. This is a partial dolphin jaw, which was collected by our club member, Corey. You can see there are no teeth in here, but you can see the sockets where the teeth were. Dolphin had many teeth. As dolphins evolved from land-dwelling creatures, they grew many more teeth. They now have more than 150 teeth. Some can have as many has 260 plus teeth. The larger member of the dolphin family is the orca or killer whale, which shares the same dentition as the smaller bottlenose dolphin, which has from 72 to 115 teeth. Almost all modern dolphins are homodonts, meaning that they have only one type of tooth. Humans have four distinct types, again, incisors, canines, premolars, and molars. A dolphin tooth is small, about 1/2 inch, and conical. Depending on the species and what they eat, their teeth can be blunt or sharp. Dolphins who eat mostly fish, krill, plankton, and squid have conical and blunt teeth. The orca, which eats large prey like seals, have sharper teeth for tearing flesh. Dolphins also use their teeth to establish dominance by raking their anterior front teeth against the body or face of another pod member. These shallow cuts are not life-threatening, but establishes who's in charge. Dolphin calves, by their first few months, feed on their mother's milk. At 3 months, their teeth start to erupt. By 6 months, all of their teeth have formed. This is the only set of teeth for life, and unlike sharks, which continuously replace their teeth. So when you find a dolphin tooth, it means that the animal has died. Dolphins grew their teeth in layers like a tree. Each dental layer indicates a year. Their teeth can be used to determine the dolphin's age. The front anterior teeth are used the most and show wear, becoming blunt and more rounded. Since dolphins don't regrow their teeth, once teeth wear out, they don't come back. Even though dolphins have a number of teeth, they swallow fish whole. Again, dolphins make sounds and use hearing called sonar, sound navigation and ranging, and echolocation. Their hearing range covers many frequencies that other animals, including humans, cannot hear. Dolphins use small ear openings on both sides of their head. Oh, sorry about that. To hear the sounds, they use the ear openings. These would be used for hearing when not underwater. Underwater, they use their lower jawbone, which passes the sounds to their middle ear. Dolphins use sounds to communicate with other dolphins and to locate objects and prey underwater. Dolphins talk to each other using certain sounds as names. Dolphins use echolocation underwater, much like whales. They generate a high-pitched sound pulse or click in their forehead, melon, which sends sounds into the water. The echoes from sound bouncing off objects help in locating and determining the distance to the object. Dolphins feel the pulses of the returning sound vibration in their jaws. Each animal or object sends off different echoes, which the dolphin can identify as to texture, shape, and size of the object. Water transmits sound 5 times faster than air. Scientists are working to enable blind humans to be taught to use echolocation. In a 10-week training program, they learn to use a click-based echolocation to improve their navigation skills. Dolphins produce 2 kinds of sound, high-pitched whistling and the clicking or rattling sound. High-pitched whistling is used for communication while clicks acts as sonar. Dolphins can hear a range that's 7 times that of a human. We are aware that dogs hear more frequencies than their masters, but dolphins have 5 times better hearing than dogs. Dolphins hear and produce some of the highest frequency sound as compared to whales, who use low frequencies. Dolphins usually communicate using higher frequencies at close range. Whales at lower frequencies communicate at farther distances up to 700 kilometers. So here again, we have the tympanic bulla and the periodic, same as in whales. Dolphins are in fact whales. So here we have many different types, again, of vertebrae that are in a dolphin. And I'll point out here, this is the caudal vertebrae of a dolphin, and you'll see that it does not have the long extensions of the spinal process, which would be up here, or these lateral cells. They're more compact. The bony structure of dolphins is lighter than that of terrestrial mammals. They have adjustable rib cages to accommodate the different pressures as they dive. The neck is short because the 7 cervical vertebrae are compressed or fused together. Dolphins have about 40 more vertebrae than a human. A human has 24 distinct vertebrae in adulthood. A bottlenose dolphin can have up to 65 vertebrae composed of 7 cervical, 13 thoracic, 14 lumbar, no sacral, but 25 caudal tail vertebrae. The first 2 cervical vertebrae are called the axis and the atlas. They are fused. The increased number of vertebrae in their spinal column is because dolphins need a wide range of motion, as their swimming comes from the dorsal and anterior movement of their body that moves the fluke or tail up and down. The bottlenose dolphin has been recorded as swimming up to 30 miles per hour, but on average, it swims at 18. Olympic swimmers have copied its style called the dolphin kick. Again, we have additional vertebrae showing here and showing the long transverse process. And lastly, we have the cervical vertebrae, which are shown here. This allows for the rising and falling of swimming movements, as well as the leaping out of the water. The vertebrae are disproportionately short and wide as compared to human cervical vertebrae. This is a modern vertebrae, and here you can see it has all the process, the transverse processes and the spinal process. They're not broken off as we normally find when we find fossil. And this is called we call this the centrum, which is the central part of the vertebrae, and you can see on top here is an epiphysis. The IUCN, which stands for the International Union of Conservation of Nature, produces a list of threatened species. And you can look this up online and see what animals are considered to be in danger of extinction. And we have a status report. 5 of the 13 great whales are considered endangered. This list does not contain endangered dolphins such as the bottlenose or the orca and spitter dolphins. So I wanted to conclude with that. I thank you for your attention. Any questions? I'll be happy to try to answer. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, questions in the chat box if you're online, and we'll get them to Tom. And Tom, are you going to be showing some of your specimens online
You're gonna have
for
to
our folks that are on TV?
Okay. Are there any others? All right.
Tom, everybody is saying thank you for your presentation. We'd love to see some. Yeah, we'd love to see some of the things that you brought. If you want to show it to us on the camera.
You're
There
gonna
we
have to move
go.
the camera over here, I guess. Okay. Thank you for bringing that material in, Corey. That's great. Thank you. Yeah, you can really see the tooth hole sockets in that. That's great.
Okay. All right, so Tom, what is that to your left or to your right there, that big thing? Yes.
Okay. So this is the back part of the skull. It actually is a Natural History Society specimen. And the interesting thing about this, I think, is this hole that's here. And so when you have the two cervical vertebrae, the atlas and the axis, the axis has a piece that fits through the atlas. This is broken off of an axis and actually goes into this hole, and it enables the head, if they wanted to be able to rotate, it could, because of this particular feature of an axis vertebrae. And I wanted to also show you here, well, I guess I showed online, but this is the, here you can see the channel where the baleen whale has the material that comes down to the baleen itself to fit into that. That's from Lee Creek. And these are part of the different cervical vertebrae that you could see there.
Joe, if you can bring us over there.
You
to
can
see some
show
of the
them
other-
this if you would. You can see the epiphysis here, which is partially broken away, but is fused to that particular bone. So, and you can see that it's smooth, whereas this particular bone is actually bigger than that one, but you can see the rough surface. So the epiphysis there, it's either been broken off the other side, and so it shows that piece which is broken off from the other side instead of being flat around, or it hasn't fused yet, and it's just there. These are the epiphysis forms here, if you can see those as well.
Do you find epiphysis a lot when you go fossil hunting?
They're fairly frequently found. They're not, compared to some things, you find a number of them broken pieces because they're fairly thin and they tend to break up. So I found some very small dolphin ones that are really quite thin in terms of that kind of thing. So this is a finger bone from a whale. One of the bones in the fingers that came from the side fin of the whale itself in terms of that. I wanted to ask you, Corey, this piece you have here, do you think that's part of a cervical vertebrae?
I think it's
Bone cancer. I was wondering if it was one of these. You don't think so? Okay. Well, answer that. So here you have, this is a beautiful piece here. This is a vestibula or tympanic. And of course, my fingers won't work. But you can see the size of this. And they're very dense. They're very heavy material. You can see kind of curls here. And then in this space would be where the vibrations can occur and it picks them up. Yeah, no, too much better than that.
Can you show us some teeth?
Show some teeth. Okay. Sure. These are some sperm oil teeth. Oh, okay. Well, that's a good one to show. You can show them that. So that's a molar from an ancient, more ancient whale. That's a pretty good size piece. And that would be back in the jaw. And then the front part of the jaw, you would have more teeth like these. This is from a sperm whale in terms of that kind of thing. Okay. And they get quite large. Here's a fairly substantial one. And you can see the enamel at the very top here. It has some enamel on that too, in terms of that. Is that what you want? How's that?
What else do you have over there, Tom?
What else do I have? I didn't get the rest of that. Okay. Can you see these are porpoise teeth? And this is the periodic there and a bulla here from porpoises. Go ahead.
And did you find all these all these specimens, or and can they be found here in Maryland? This is a good for
These materials over here I found. These are from the Mallet collection, thanks courtesy of Adrian. Thank you, Adrian. Yes, almost all this stuff is from Calvert Cliffs. There's some stuff from South Carolina. This is we talked about astragalus. Hopefully you could see that. That's from a deer. It's not from a whale, but whales have similar ones that attach to their flippers where it attaches to the fingers in terms of that. But it's very distinctive for a mammal to have that process in terms of that. Okay, anything else? This is the dolphin. This would be the atlas vertebrae from a dolphin that you have there. And I'm not sure, this may be a part of the axis vertebrae with this piece coming through, which is called a dens, which stabilizes it so that it can rotate around that.
And as a reminder,
Thank you.
Tom will have all of these specimens out for for National Fossil Day on.
We talked about
October so we will have it out for October 9th. We hope that everybody will be there.
National Fossil Day. What about
on mammals? We'll have JP Hodnet bringing a lot of other mammals that
yes.
Large carnivores and other mammals as well, and doing a talk on the Cumberland Bone Cave. So I hope that you come back for that.
This is a bone that goes down into the lower jaw dentary to pick up the sounds that are received by the fat in the lower dentary in terms of that kind of thing. So that was found in the Calvert Cliffs in terms of that. The squamosal, these. Okay, and that's what that is as well. All right. Okay. So what did you want me to tell them? And you see those are squamosal bones that go to pick up sound. They're on the outside of the skull. They pick up sound from the lower dentary jawbone and carry the sound level into the inner ear, into the bulla, which is what into here, carry it into here, which then transfers it into the periodic and the three small bones that eventually move the sound into the nerve that carries it to the brain as neural impulses in terms of that. Okay. Trying to find what? Oh, a left and a right. There you go. So if you have one on either side of the head to pick up sounds, and that helps them differentiate where the sound is coming from what direction in terms of that.
All right, Tom,
I
thank
think
you
we
so
covered
much.
most
This has been
everything.
great.
You
We're
might
gonna
want to
sign-
show this. You might get a better picture if you haven't already of the dolphin skull with the sockets for the teeth where it would have been. This is a piece of the skull of the dolphin. Very beautiful that Corey found. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. We'll see everybody back here for National Fossil Day, and we'll have our next meeting the couple days before that to be determined. Stay tuned. We'll hope that we'll see you in person and or online. Everybody stay well, stay curious, and stay outside. Stay fossil. Stay looking for fossils. And we do have some spaces that are still available in our October fossil trip. So it's October 29th. If you want to go fossil hunting down at Stratford Hall, spaces are still available for that. The September trip is sold out, but October is still open. So you have to get in there because they will sell out. But I'm glad that everybody was here. Thank you again, Tom, for sharing your knowledge, your passion, and your fossils with us. Take care, everybody.